Rev up your engines. Jeeps, people love them, people hate them. Today I'm going to tell you, well, it's not such a smart idea to buy a Jeep for everyday driving. Now, of course, CJ stands for Civilian Jeep. They're originally military Jeeps for going off-road, wartime, in war zones, right? They're not made for driving on a highway, that's for sure. Now, this one was purchased by my grandson for a toy. For the small amount of money he paid for it, hey, not a bad choice for a toy. It even kind of looks like a toy. Somebody hooked an electric fan up on the front here to cool it down because it's been modified so much. And as you can see, a lot of the metal parts have been welded on. Kind of a sloppy job, but hey, beats having it all rusted out. Fenders have been cut down. It's got dual exhaust. This one's got a bunch of holes in it. As you can feel in here, that's a big hole. Now, you can see, this can make an excellent toy because it's got a V8 engine in it. Well, the other side doesn't have any holes. Needless to say, this big V8 engine with these little tiny mufflers on each side ain't going to stop noise much. I would believe that it does only have 64,000 miles, not 164 or 264. As I said, these are toys. Often, they're not driven high mileage. Even though it's from the 1970s, that's all the mileage this thing's had put on it. Behind 8-ball here, there's a 3-speed standard transmission and a 4-wheel drive setup. And being an old toy, a lot of stuff doesn't work. Gas gauge doesn't work, temperature gauge doesn't work. None of these gauges have been hooked up, or if they were, they're not working anymore. Just realize one thing about these Jeeps. These CJs have a very short wheelbase. They're high up in the air. They ride like absolute crap. Hey, came from a military Jeep. Comfort is not their thing. They're fighting wars. This thing looks like it's been through a few wars. Now, a lot of the stock system is still there. I can tell because it's only got a 2-barrel carburetor, which is what this came with. The guys will throw a 4-barrel on, but I mean, this is a small vehicle. It gets horrible gas mileage. Even with a 2-barrel, you put a 4-barrel, you might even get half the gas mileage it's getting now. Realize this baby only gets about 10 miles a gallon as it sits now with just a 2-barrel carburetor. You push it on the highway, maybe you'll get 14 if you're lucky, but these vehicles are not made for the highway. They're too high. This one's got too much power for its chassis. Not a smart thing to be driving these things around 65, 70 miles an hour. This will do it with a V8, but like I say, not a smart idea. Of course, being high up in the air, these big old tires, they're gonna wear out fast. They're gonna ride like crap. It has the old-fashioned leaf spring suspension with shocks. That's in the back and in the front. Pretty much a duplication. Leaf springs with a shock. There's the front differential. And of course, this is an old school one. It has actual universal joints for the CV joints made out of metal. No rubber boot and flimsy stuff. These are solid made axles. You lock them and unlock them manually. Of course, the back are being driven all the time. Now, recently I drove a 6-cylinder CJ around, and it scared me once I got over 45 miles an hour. This thing has a V8. It's even scarier. Not that many women want to drive one of these, although some do. Well, it stopped running. Like I said, these things are gas hogs. My grandson doesn't want to spend much money on gasoline. It's bone dry again. Maybe I was a bit liberal with my 10 miles a gallon in this thing. It probably gets worse than that. That's what he said he was getting, but I think he's lying. So pour some more gas in. Might take a while. Well, we got it going again, so let's see how far she'll go. Now you gotta steer all over the place to go straight. And we're only going about 15 miles an hour. Imagine taking this thing on a highway. You'd really be asking for it. It does have that sound though. Nice sound. Big old V8. Just watch out for the ditches. We're getting closer. And we ran out of gas again. Well, like I said, these things are gas hogs. And this one also needs at least an alternator because it's only putting out 5 volts. But at least realize it's a 70s Jeep. Alternator's easy to get to. And I checked. The AutoZone down the street had one. Less than $100, so no big deal. So we'll charge the old battery back so I can get it to my grandson's. Now, as you can see, these things go through the washing machine. The front's been bashed in. They've added. Fan wouldn't fit anymore, so now there's an electric one here, but really, that's not going to be doing all that much. That work was done by a knucklehead who owned it before, because check it out. Look at all the space here. You would run an electric fan here to suck it through. That's some insane add-on with a tiny little motor that's going to suck very little air through the radiator. Now, if you want a toy to go off-road in, hey, for the small amount of money you paid for this thing, less than $3,000, fix it up and have some fun. But take this thing on a highway going 65 miles an hour, you got to be plumb out of your mind. As the tires say, Mud Rover. They don't say interstate. When you see this old CJ, you can understand why Jeep now makes basically SUVs. Grand Cherokee, stuff like that. They can be taken on the highway. They have modern suspension systems. They're not like this. That's much closer to a military Jeep. Be it a military Jeep, it's on steroids with a big V8 engine in it. I mean, let's face it, this thing doesn't even have power brakes. No, it does have power steering. I'll give it that. Now, of course, you got to check for rust on these. If they're rusted, they were notorious rust buckets. You don't want to buy one. You can see here, look at the floor pan. Solid. Solid. Frame is old. It's got some superficial rust on it. You're always going to be on something this old, but it's still pretty solid. That's true on both sides. Now, as for the body on this one, you don't have to worry about rust because it's been replaced with fiberglass body. Door got broken, so it's just been fiberglass back on the fiberglass. But that's why the body's so clean, as you can see. These rust out like mad on the steel ones. That's why it's been replaced with fiberglass. As I said, the original ones, the steel, rot away a lot. This one obviously rotted completely away. It was replaced with fiberglass. There's pros and cons. Now, a lot of guys like the aluminum bodies. They won't rust, but of course, aluminum bodies cost a lot more than these fiberglass kits. Now, the main problem with the fiberglass kits, of course, is on a normal vehicle, the wires are all positive electricity, and all the metal parts, the body and everything, are ground, negative electricity. So you can have a lot of problems with ground wiring on these things. And as you can see, this baby's got problems. Where the wiring harness was touching, and up there, where it touches when you close the hood, the wires are getting way too hot and they're melting stuff. So when you do buy these fiberglass kits, you gotta make sure everything has power and ground. The grounding is gonna be a lot more complex. Now this doesn't matter here, because that's metal, that's the metal frame. But the rest of the vehicle, it's all fiberglass. You're going to have to run grounds to everything. To the brake lights, the tail lights, instrument panel. It's all fiberglass. They all have to have grounds on them. Thank goodness this is an old vehicle. Look how simple it is. You don't have all the computer crap. It would go haywire if the grounds weren't correct. What's under the hood? A simple carburetor. You can see it's got 2 ports inside. This is an old-fashioned 2-barrel carburetor with a simple distributor. And these straight 6 Jeep engines are notorious for lasting forever with minimal care. They're pretty easy to get a hold of. There's a starter. It's a brand new starter. You can get those things easily enough. Fancy electric fuel pumps. It's got a mechanical one. Bolts on here. Very easy to get to. And of course, most people want to modernize these things so they're fun to drive. On this one, it didn't come with power brakes, so they added a power brake booster system to it, so it'll stop better. It does have disc brakes, old-fashioned drum brakes in the back. So power brakes really make this thing a lot easier to drive and safer. And speaking of drivability, steering's been changed. Originally, it had no power steering, so it was modified. Cost a bit of money, but you can see this is all modified. And it now has power steering, which it didn't have before. Of course, there's companies that sell the kits. You can see the brackets bolt on the engine. It's a 6-cylinder engine that was very common. There's many parts available for it. So this was added on by the man who bought it. You can go as far or as short as you want in doing modifications, or you can do them over years. Whatever you want to do. These are fun vehicles to drive. They're fun off-road vehicles. They're not made for long-distance highway driving. They're high up in the air. Got a great 4-wheel drive system, but look at the suspension. Old leaf springs. Big shock absorbers, but old leaf springs in the front. Smooth riding and cruising is not what this vehicle was made for. So let's climb aboard, start it up. Say in a K. starts right up. Now, as per usual on these, the gas gauge is broken. It doesn't work anymore. Neither does the voltmeter. The oil pressure works, but you can see that gas gauge doesn't work either. But you can hear it's still a smooth running engine. So close the hood and take it for a spin. Very simple design. That is no pop-up. Now I gotta say, the wiring could do with a lot of repair. And it's almost as if they know it with this fire extinguisher. These tiny doors, good thing it's still got good seat belts on it. You wouldn't go flying out those doors. Keep your high up in here, and that power steering really makes it easier to drive, I'll say that. Now, of course, realize these are not handling machines. You gotta do a lot of wrestling on, even to take simple curves like this. This is not a vehicle to race around in. The 6-cylinder engine's got enough horsepower. It's not a high-speed machine. It's fine. It's great for taking off-road. Speed demon? It isn't. Don't try to turn one into one. As you can see, they tend to wander all over the road. High-speed cornering is not one of their fortes. And neither is speed, as you'll see. Here we go. All over the road when you're driving. And high-speed driving isn't its forte, as I said. You bounce all over the road with those leaf springs. You gotta keep counter steering to keep in a straight line in one of these babies. And it's not even windy today. And that's only going 35 miles an hour. Its real stability is when you're sitting at a stoplight. Now it's nice and stable. Now, if you're looking to buy an old CJ Jeep, realize they had a zillion different engines in them throughout history. They had a 4.2 liter AMC straight cylinder 6 like this Jeep has, which as far as I'm concerned is probably the best one for overall driving. And even had a 5 liter AMC V8, which was a unique V8. It wasn't Ford, it wasn't Chevy, it was their own kind of interesting AMC design. But as far as I'm concerned, that V8 engine is overpowered for these dangerous. Many people have killed themselves in those things. There's just too much power for a vehicle that originally, when it was the Willys Jeep, that was the first company, it had a top speed of 65 miles an hour, and you were really pushing it to get it going that fast. You throw a powerful V8 engine into that design, you're just asking for trouble. You get enough trouble with one of these 6s. Got enough power for off-roading, fun for driving around, and I don't really like the 4s. They're kind of underpowered. And really, as you can see, they are smooth, idling, powerful engines that can last forever. So now you know the truth about these old CJ civilian Jeeps. You can have a lot of fun if you keep the speed down and if you price around and do things right. So far, this thing's got a little bit more than $7,000 in the price paid and the work done to it. And it's a fun, low-speed, off-road toy. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.